My boys, were going down under once again for UFC Fight Night Perth, okay? I'm sorry if I sound like Joe Rogan being held at gunpoint to be able to say, like, we're going down under for the UFC for this one, boys. That's on me. That's my bad. But today, it's not the greatest card in the world. It's what we're going over. I feel like the main event is carrying pretty hard. It's a great main event. Our hearts are invested in the Dominic Reyes title run story. It's a great arc, but in general, I feel like that's what's carrying the card pretty heavily here, okay? It's a lot of Aussies. It's a lot of the hometown crowd and a lot of the hometown buzz, but not a lot of depth to this card. Hopefully, we get a lot of finishes and excitement. I think we will, but regardless, this is my full card predictions and breakdown for UFC Perth, my boys. So getting into the first fight we got, it's the USA American. Well, no, they're all Americans. They're from the Andre Petroski is taking on Cam Rowston, and he's sitting right now as a very slight favorite. And I'm going to be trusting him to get this one done. It's a bit of a risky pick. Rowston, I don't know too much about him, but he's 1-1 in the Contender Series. Lost to the big old Taurus Finney in his debut, and then came back for this season, and he got a nasty knockout. So the dude is clearly capable of hitting very hard behind his hands. But honestly, Andre Petroski, for the most part, he's pretty durable. He did kind of get pieced up a little bit, and he did get knocked down in his last performance against Edmund Shabazian. But people forget, man, I mean, speaking of Joe Rogan, people forget, man, Shabazian is on a little bit of a good streak and a bit of a run right now. But like Petroski beating Rodolfo Vieira, Josh Frem, GM3, like these are pretty solid wins. The dude knows how to mix it up with the wrestling. The USA wrestling, I get it. It's nothing too crazy in the grand world of MMA right now. But Cam Rowston, won't lie to y'all, I'm not going to try and fake hardcore. I don't know too much about him besides what I've seen in the Contender Series, but it seems like not the most well-rounded fighter in the world. Sure, man, a lot of output on the feet, heavy pressure fighter, crazy power. I think he'll come after here, and I appreciate that his name is literally the Battle Trap. But honestly, when I see the holes on the ground, I feel like that Andre Petroski, that's really his bread and butter. I know that on the feet, he's not all that. He doesn't hit the hardest, but he's usually able to survive. And most of the time, not most of the time, but at least half the damn time, he's building up enough UFC experience at this point to where he gets it done. I think a 29-28 decision is coming in the way for Andre Petroski. Maybe he can get chinned and caught in the early goings of the fight, but I think he's going to have solid enough cardio, a solid enough chin, and solid enough wrestling to be able to mix this one up and survive to move on to the fight, okay? Moving on, up next to Brando Perecic, taking on Alicia Ellison. Now, I got to go out in the closet and I got to put on my casual t-shirt, okay? My big people forget, man, cone. Because genuinely, y'all, I'm not even going to waste the time here. There's a lot of fights on the card. I don't know anything about these two. One of them is 5-1. The other one is 4-1. They have the NPC pictures. Okay, I just don't know anything here. I'm going to be going with Brandon Perecic because a little bit more of a badass sounding name, and he is the favorite. But again, I don't know too much here. I'm just going to trust ultimately in the odds makers here. I don't know anything about this, okay? We are moving on up next to Jamie Mullarkey versus Rolando Bedoya. And okay, I understand that he is a bit of the slight underdog here. These are literally life on the line betting odds here, but I think that this is a very winnable opponent here for Jamie Mullarkey. He's going to be my prediction to get this one done. My spine is tingling at the thought of this fight, okay? The amount of aura in this octagon that will be shared is unbound, okay? Jesus, I don't know why I'm talking about like I'm the guy that wrote fucking Harry Potter, but you know what I'm saying. Jamie Mullarkey, I'm going to be trusting here because I feel like when you look at his UFC run, it is a bit easy. Like he's The Rock talking to like Michael Cole or someone. It's a bit easy to just clown him, put a pie in his face, call him the jabroni and the jobber of the UFC, because he suffered a lot of losses, a lot of knockout losses. But I noticed the consistent trend in Jamie Mullarkey's career is that, yes, he doesn't have the craziest or the prettiest record, okay? It's 17-8. He's on the bigger end of things in terms of losses. But when he's taking these losses, even though they are by brutal finish, it's to pretty decent competition. Nothing crazy like that top 10 level, but it's to Jalen Turner, Muhammad Naimov, Nasrat Hakparovs, and Mauricio Rufy, Faraz Siam, and Brad Riddle. Those are the only losses, and I get that those are a lot of losses, okay? They're pretty much all by finish, but except, you know, people forget, man, Faraz Siam still wasn't able to finish them, but you know what I'm saying. It's been a bit of a rough go, but whenever he's facing these guys that are outside of that recognizable name level, I mean, dude, he's beating them, okay? They're not the most entertaining fights all the time, but he's dragging them out to a 29-28 decision and is able to consistently win. And when I look at Rolando Bedoya, he's 0-3 in the UFC. He's going to drawn out decisions every every single time. He's getting outstruck, he's getting pieced up, he's getting knocked down, and ultimately he's just getting beat up to where Jamie Mullarkey, I don't think he's the craziest striker in the world. I don't think he's exactly well-rounded. I don't think he's even like that top UFC level, mid-UFC level, bottom UFC level. When you go to Bikini Bottom, you know how SpongeBob, they take the little bus down, and then it's all the people that are like glow in the dark, and they go like whatever that is. They have like the gloves and shit on the balloons. Jamie Mullarkey is there, and he's going to be able to get, once again, another 29-28 decision down there, okay? I think he gets this one done, and I think Bedoya will end up going 0-4 in the UFC and cut, okay? Maybe I'm crazy here, but I'm trusted in Mullarkey. Moving on up next to Kobe Thicknesse. And now that he's fighting once again in the UFC, that last name, it just doesn't have that same kick as it used to, okay? But he's taking on Josias Musasa's here. I'm sorry if I botched the last name, but the betting odds are pretty close to this one. And I feel like, as they should be, this is a bit of a tough one to call. I'm going to be going with the underdog, the slight underdog in Kobe Thicknesse. I feel like Musasa definitely can get this one done. But in his last performance alone, let's talk about it. And Daniel, I really believe that Josiah Mokuku, I really believe he's one of the greatest fighters you ever see. Let's talk about his last performance, man. I feel like against Carlos Ferreira, he was piecing him up. He was a very heavy pressure fighter. He was looking to get that round one finish. It was almost set up for him, okay? He was a minus 700 in the Apex, making his UFC debut. He had a bit of a pretty competitive back and forth on the Contender Series, but he got the contract. And Carlos Vera, I just don't exactly think he's like the craziest level of competition. He himself has barely fought in the UFC. That, I believe, was actually the only win he's experienced, and it was over Musasa. But Musasa was looking good. He was looking like the better striker, the more powerful striker. He was piecing him up and putting forward a heavy pressure, but ultimately, once Carlos Vera, I mean, he was the one who actually knocked him down. He was the one who landed the best shot of that fight, knocked down Musasa, and immediately got a hold of the rear naked choke. So Musasa's 0-1 in the UFC, and so is Thicknesse, but I feel like there's a difference in competition level. Even though all these guys have fought the same amount, I feel like you could tell by the way they fight and all this shit. Not just because of their last name, before you say it, but I feel like Alexandre Topuria, I know we've only seen him fight once in the UFC, but man, he looks fucking good, okay? He looked good against, similar in style to the brother, but he looked good on the feet. He was able to rack up a lot of control over Thicknesse. He was able to barely outstrike him, but the thing about it was that Thicknesse was able to make it semi-competitive. He was able to at least take a round off of him. So I'm not saying that Topuria is levels above these guys. I think we have a lot to see out of him, but I'm just saying that the fact that it was a pretty competitive fight, especially in terms of the numbers. Obviously, I know that Topuria was kind of dog walking him on the ground a bit there and was piecing him up, landing the harder hitting shots. I mean, Thicknesse, it seemed like he was scared to get a little bit too close to Topuria, but at the end of the day, he's a fast striker. He's slick. He's dynamic on the feet. I don't think he hits the hardest. I think the power advantage and who's just going to be the bigger marauder belongs to Josias Musasa. But I think that the fight IQ can be a bit questionable. I think that he's not the most well-rounded fighter in the world. And I think that, yes, he could get a round one knockout in here or maybe even a finish at all throughout the fight. There's a reason why he's the favorite, but similar to Topuria, I mean, Topuria was getting pretty much an 100% finish rate before he fought Thicknesse, and Thicknesse was able to maintain the distance enough and avoid getting finished. Yes, it was, again, not the prettiest fight for him, but he was avoiding getting finished. If the bull was coming the fuck at him, he was able to at least survive. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I think he'll be able to survive the onslaught that this other bull-type style that Musasa is going to bring, a heavy power puncher looking to end it early, is going to get frustrated in there, and I think that Thicknesse is going to be able to survive the storm, land hopefully the better and cleaner shots, and maybe outstrike him, maybe find something on the ground, but I don't think Thicknesse is too crazy well-rounded. I don't think his grappling is all that, but I'm going to be trusting him to get this one done. I think it'll be a 29-28 decision, and scary early on, but I think he'll survive. I'm going to be trusting in Kobe Thicknesse to get this one done. Moving on up next to the Hardcore's dream fight. It seems like we have a couple of these on every single card, man. The Hardcores are doing the Looney Tunes hard eye for this one. You got Jonathan Micallef. Mate, Jonathan, I'm not even going to do this, okay? Taking on Oban Elliott. I'm going to go with Jonathan Micallef. Very close in the betting odds. Micallef is a plus 110, but I'm going to be trusting in him to get this one done, man. I get that these guys are both very young, and that Micallef is coming off of a win in his UFC debut. Elliott is coming off of a loss where he was on a good win streak before that. But the thing about it is that Elliott, he did have a good win streak, okay? A lot of people were pushing up their hardcore glasses and had it crazy for Oban Elliott. They loved him. And I think that they still do. And I think that there's reasons to, okay? He can be a bit entertaining. here and there, and he is a pretty good fighter. I think that he is UFC level. Clearly, he put together a good win streak, but the thing is, it wasn't complete domination. I'm not saying that you need to be getting round 1 KOs every time, but the thing is, it wasn't domination, and it's not exactly the greatest competition. It's Basil Hafez, and it's Val Woodburn, and it's shit like that, and he's coming off a loss to a guy who, yes, could end up being very good. It seems like he has a good record in his own right, but he lost to him on his UFC debut, and he got out-grappled very badly. Elliott, a lot of people were saying he was well-rounded and had underrated grappling and shit like that, but he got ragdolled in that fight, and that was pretty recently. That was in June. And Jonathan Micallef on the other end, it seems like as Elliott just lost all the momentum he was building up, Jonathan Micallef is just taking over pretty quick here, okay? He's only 1-0 in the UFC, and again, he's fighting pretty early on in the card. I'm not saying that everybody knows Micallef or is going crazy for Micallef, but he seems like a promising prospect, man. Like, beating Kevin Jousset in your UFC debut, like, that's a better win than any of the wins that Oban Elliott had on his win streak. And the fact that his power applies, he was able to get a knockdown in. He was able to outstrike Jousset as well. And Jousset, man, I get that the French fighters, they're not too crazy relatively in the grand scheme of things, but Jousset was a solid fighter, man. People were rating Kevin Jousset. So for Micallef to go out there, outstrike him, knock him down, it's an impressive debut. And I get that he's the slight underdog here. I don't exactly know if he's the most well-rounded fighter in his own right, but I just like the striking. I like the power, and I like the more danger on the feet from Jonathan Micallef. Again, Oban Elliott, he does have a finish in the UFC, but I think Micallef, he wasn't able to finish Jousset, but again, I rate the competition higher. Again, I think that Oban Elliott, you could argue, might be the more well-rounded fighter here. I haven't seen too much out of the grappling of Micallef. He was able to get a submission in the Contender Series, but again, now that he's fighting a guy in Elliott who has been in a decent amount of scrambles, a lot of grappling exchanges, ultimately in his UFC run. I'm not saying that it's just a Khabib level grapple fest, but I think that maybe he's the more well-rounded fighter, but I'm going to be trusting in the power and just the momentum and just the better striking of Jonathan Micallef. I'm going to be trusting in this prospect to go solidly far, okay? Maybe I'm going to be wrong, but who the hell knows? Moving on up next to Navajo Stirling taking on Rodolfo Bellato. I'm going to be trusting in the favorite here in Navajo Stirling to get this one done. I just like what I see out of him more, man, okay? Much less of a controversial run in the UFC, I'll tell you that. They've been around for just as long, just as many fights, both these guys in the UFC, but for Bellato, he's coming off a pretty rough no contest. A lot of people thought that he faked it when Craig, I believe it was an up kick when he was on his back, and Bellato seemed to, a lot of people say fake the injury, and then it ended up going to the no contest. It is what it is, man. It was very bizarre to say the least, and Bellato, any momentum that he did have in the UFC, very little, like it was the spirit bomb from Goku, just vanished, okay? It's gone. Because when your only win in the UFC is over Ihor Peteria, granted it was a sick knockout, but when that was about it, you're going life and death with Jimmy Crute. My Jimmy fucking Crute. We'll get to Jimmy Crute. But then it's the no contest against Craig, and Craig was outstriking you and kind of piecing you up. It is a rough look, man. So ultimately, at least with Navajo Stirling, there's a reason why he's the favorite, man. He's 2-0, I believe, maybe 3-0 in the UFC. And yes, he's not the most exciting fighter in the world, but he's clean and efficient on the feet. He's pretty relatively kind of on the quicker end of things for kind of these heavier weight classes. He's able to outstrike and outland and out just point, and he's able to even land just the heavier shots. He's not the craziest finishing artist in the world, especially now that he's entered that UFC level, but maybe he could finish Bellato. Bellato doesn't have great fight IQ. He can kind of get reckless and dangerous with it, relies maybe sometimes too much on the power on his own end. I could see him rushing in and Navajo Stirling maybe catching him. He's definitely the more green fighter though, and again, less finishing ability. He's only 7-0, but he just seems like the better striker here, okay? He's a little bit younger here, and again, he has the slight reach and height advantage, but I don't even think that's going to matter. I think he's going to be safe on the back foot, and even if he wants to get the fuck after it and is able to just move forward on the offensive end and just be the heavy pressure fighter here, maybe he can find the chin of Bellato, or at the very least, man, I think he's just going to be more technical. I think he's going to have better fight IQ. I think he's the cleaner striker. I think he's able to survive against guys who can, you know, kind of finish you in the first round like an Ihor Peteria level, like a Tuco Tokos or an Ivan Ersling. But at the end of the day, those guys aren't exactly crazy UFC level. I think Bellato's kind of in that boat. I think Stirling, I'm going to be trusting in him to just be the better prospect to invest in. I don't even know if you can really call Bellato a prospect. Jesus, I'm sorry. I should really, that's a sin what I just committed. But there is a bit of concerns with the grappling. Maybe if Bellato wants to mix that in and pull a Johnny Walker, maybe he can get that one done. But honestly, I just think that the grappling will just improve. And I don't think think Bellato is going to be the guy that takes Stirling's, undefeated record and makes him 7-1. I don't think Stirling is ever going to be maybe that top 10 level, at least anytime in the next couple years, but I think that at least he'll get past the Bellato test, okay? Moving on up next to the featured prelim, and yes, in the big old 2025, Justin motherfucking Tafa is on the featured prelim of a fight night. I mean, granted, he was the featured fight of a pay-per-view earlier this year. Very crazy, but Justin Tafa, 7-5, taking on 10-3. I've seen some resources say, some resources, shut the fuck up. Some sources saying that he's 6-3 as well, but I believe he's 10-3, 8 finishes, Louis Sutherland. I want to go with this guy purely based off the fact that his nickname is the Vanilla Gorilla. I love that shit, but to be honest, I'm gonna go with a heavy heart. I literally have to pause before saying it. Like, this is a real gamble, okay? Because I'm not going to be picking the other Tafa brother later in the night. It's very hard to come to reason to pick a Tafa brother to beat anybody really inside the UFC right now. But Sutherland is making his UFC debut. I genuinely have been thinking about this fight way too damn much because in the build up to this video, I'm like, holy shit, this is a gamble. I have a better chance of betting a duck to walk up to a lemonade stand and not want grapes. You know what I'm saying? If any other young unks get that reference, I appreciate you. But you know what I'm saying? Justin Tafa, man, he's barely getting by in the UFC. You could argue that if him and his brother lose one more, they could be cut because they're specifically built, like it's almost in like some really fucked up factory where the Tafa brothers just originated out of, and they were built and designed whenever the Aussies down under, whatever they have a card, the Tafa brothers are sent there. They're built there. And once in a while, once every 3 or 4 fights, okay, maybe even 2 or 3, they can get a knockout. They'll get a bonus. They'll do the little jiggle. But most of the time, man, when they even step up a little bit in competition compared to just the jobbers that are kind of setting them up to win, they come up short, okay? And I'm not trying to merge Justin and Junior together like they're the same fighter, but come the fuck on, it's pretty similar, okay? So Justin Tafa, though, man, he's going to rely on the power in his hands, okay? Every time he's won in the UFC, it has been via a KO. And the problem is with Louis Sutherland, he has a decent amount of experience, but he's never been finished, okay? So he has a decent chin. These are big boys. He's been able to, deliver some hard-hitting shots, and he's also able to receive it. That worries me if that's Justin Tafa's main way of victory. But the thing is, when I'm looking at Louis Sutherland's record, okay, this is what kind of convinced me. And maybe I'm looking too much into it because I've never seen Sutherland really fight besides highlight reels and shit like that in the build up to this. But to be honest, it seems like he hits hard. He could be another heavyweight that breaks through here, okay? It is just Justin fucking Tafa. We're not dealing with too much here. But the only time that he's actually kind of stepped up in competition to the Bellator or PFL level, he has lost, okay? The only 3 losses on his record, well, I'm sorry, 2 out of the 3 losses on his record is when he stepped up to Bellator or PFL, okay? These other promotions like the Levels Fight League and Fight Star Championship and Ambition Fight Series, I'm sorry if I'm a casual that I don't know what these are, but regardless, I gotta go with Justin Tafa purely because at least he has a couple of those wins in the UFC. He's fighting literally for his career here, whereas Sutherland, yes, he's going to try and make a statement. Who knows? He might come out heavy, immediate with the pressure. He's pretty consistent with ending things early. Once in a while, he'll go to a decision. So if his chin can survive the power and the pressure of the technical and sloppy Justin Tafa, I don't know how to take this fight seriously, but seriously, if he's able to survive whatever power and pressure Tafa can bring, if Tafa's really aiming for an early finish, and maybe he can get it, that's what I'm going to be relying on here to at least, for the love of God, show UFC level. I can't believe I'm saying this because me picking a Tafa brother in the big old 2025 is crazy. I picked a Sherry to knock him out, but somehow here we are. A twist of fate. I'm going to go with Justin Tafa to get a win here over the debuting Louis Sutherland. Who the hell knows though, man? This is probably a dumb pick for me, okay? But he's somehow the favorite. So moving on up next to open up the main card here, we got Tom Nolan defending Australia. And again, one of these spots in the opening up the main card, or it's the second fight on the card. We saw it with Paris. We saw it with Noche UFC. It was Sola and then it was Luna, I believe. Those 2 fighters, man. Again, similar to this, big kind of pressure spot, prospect on the rise, young guy, UFC, trying to give him some attention here. And I feel like I'm going to be going with the opposite side this time. I went with the hometown crowd guy the past couple of times, but I'm switching up. I'm going with the American. Good morning, USA. Like I'm singing like I'm the Crimson Chip with it. Charlie Campbell is going to be my prediction to get this one done. I believe he's the underdog. I don't have the odds in front of me for this one, but Listen, the thing is, this is a very hard fight to call. I'm going to say that. Like, I was originally going to go with Tom Nolan, but I just think when you're kind of making it a close fight against Borshev, and Borshev, when he's fighting anybody just kind of above that average level in the UFC, he's getting fucking smoked. All the smoked. You know what I'm saying? So for Tom Nolan, yes, it was a good win for him, and I picked Borshev to beat him, I believe. So don't get me wrong. I picked against Nolan before and have been wrong, but I think that Charlie Campbell is a better fighter than a guy like Tom Nolan is. Like, Charlie Campbell, his only loss has come from the contender, or his only loss in the UFC is coming from the contender series where he lost to Chris Duncan. Nothing wrong with losing to Chris Duncan. And then the fact that he's able to knock out Alex Reyes and he's able to take out Trevor Peek via, I mean, he was able to mix in the grappling. He was able to outstrike him. Like, it was a good performance from Charlie Campbell. Nothing crazy or life-changing. My soul has remained the same since seeing that performance. But for Charlie Campbell, look at the Alex Reyes knockout. Like, that's a similar opponent that they've had. It was Campbell's debut. I know that Reyes is like 0-2 or 0-3 in the UFC. And I understand that two of his losses are to these two guys, but Nolan took him to a decision, whereas Campbell has finished him in the first round. And I also think that the finishing ability, you could argue, just goes on the side of Charlie Campbell. I like what I see a bit more out of him on the feet. He seems a bit more urgent to finish. He's able to outstrike these guys. I feel like he has solid pop on to shots. I think that he's more comfortable with mixing in the grappling. Tom Nolan, I feel like, is more of the striker here. I don't think that Charlie Campbell exactly is the most well-rounded fighter in the world, but I think he's going to be more comfortable mixing this fight up on the ground and shooting a few takedowns here, and the odds are he could be successful with a couple of them here. I think that primarily, though, it will be a standing battle, but I still am going to be trusting in the striking here of Charlie Campbell. He's a little bit less experienced in the UFC, and again, he's going on enemy territory here, but I think that I'm going to be trusting him to get this one done. Moving on up next to Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny, and I gotta bite myself and see if I'm dreaming, because I genuinely feel like I've seen this fight already. I feel like that this fight has happened already in 1,800 other timelines, but this is the first time we're seeing it here somehow in the UFC. We have the young unk in Jake Matthews, and then the old veteran, the old dog, Neil Magny, 38 years old, man, okay? For the first time ever recently, yes, he bounced back with a win. Fantastic, okay? That's not new, but for the first time ever recently, he suffered 2 losses in the row. That was kind of a big thing for how long he's been fighting. That is kind of a thing where Neil Magny, he's definitely at just the tail end of his career, man. He's once again a massive underdog. He's consistently been in these spots, okay? Against Dos Anjos, he was able to get a win. I predicted him to get that, but he was only sitting at like a plus 170 dog. And for this one, once again, he's going against a guy who's going to be faster than him, hungrier than him, and just trying to make his fucking spot. It's crazy that Jake Matthews, man, he's been around the UFC for so long, but this is kind of really, it seems like only the second time, maybe third time, where he's actually putting together a bit of a run here. He's looking technical, he's looking crisp, and he's looking powerful on the feet. I actually like what I've been seeing out of Jake Matthews, okay? And honestly, he's not the most exciting fighter all the time. Sometimes he does like that finishing ability, but not to say that Neil Magny isn't well-rounded. Like, Neil Magny can get a bit of ground and pound, and Neil Magny can mix it up in the clinch, but realistically, I think Jake Matthews, honestly, is the bit more the well-rounded fighter. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but I feel like when he can mix it up on the ground, he's eventually able to get some takedowns in. It's not his key bread and butter path to victory here, but I don't know, Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny, I feel like it's primarily, regardless, just going to be a bit of a standing battle. Can Jake Matthews get a finish? I fucking hope so. It's Neil Magny, and I feel like that he's going to be the faster fighter. He's going to have more pop in his shots. And again, Neil Magny, he got a win, and traditionally when you look at Neil Magny's record, especially over the past few years, he wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one, okay? And once again, here we go, like the bells of chime ringing. Neil Magny comes calling. I don't even know what the hell that means, but Neil... Where am I on the spectrum, bro? Somebody help me with that. Okay, but Neil Magny, genuinely, I just can sense a big loss here coming from him, possibly by finish, or maybe a 29-28 for Jake Matthews. I like what I see out of him more on the feet, and in general, I think he's going to put on a pressure-heavy performance. I think he's going to try and expose the chin of Neil Magny. Maybe hunt for a finish, but if not, maybe some kind of patient, technical, just piecing him up from the distance, kind of 30-27. I can see either or happening, but regardless, I'm going with Jake Matthews to take this one, okay? One of the safer picks on the card, but who the hell knows with Neil Magny, okay? Moving on up next to Jimmy Crute. Mate, Jimmy motherfucking Crute. It's a terrible Aussie impression. It's terrible. Taking on Ivan Erslan here, man. I'm surprised that Crute isn't a bigger favorite. It makes me kind of worried here, but I am going to be going with Crute. I thought he was going to be one of the safer picks of the card, but again, these betting odds, they kind of worry me, but he's a favorite regardless. I think that with Ivan Erslan, man, he's 0-2 in the UFC. Both times have gone to the distance, and granted, he's facing pretty solid competition. He's facing Navajo Stirling, one of the prospects upcoming for the division, young, hungry, he's pretty good on the feet, and then Ian Talaba, he's a fucking veteran, and you got to respect, he's been in so many wars. Tavares, he's got a lot of wins with it, okay? Those aren't bad losses, and Jimmy Crute, he was, until very recently, on a skid of losses, okay? But he was able to bounce back with an impressive performance. He's back in the win column. He's having a relatively quick turnaround. Jimmy Crute I'm talking about here, and I think that Erslan, 0-2 in the UFC, it seemed like he was on a tear, and he was going to be one of these S or A tier marauders. When he came into the UFC, most of his wins were via finish, but it just seems like the power hasn't necessarily translated at the UFC level. Like Erslan, he definitely can crack. You could argue he has the power advantage on the feet here because Jimmy Crute's going to want to try and take this one to the ground. Obviously, I feel like that's his bread and butter. That's how he's going to want to get this one done. Erslan, man, he can crack, but again, it just hasn't applied to the UFC level. He's getting pieced up and fucking triple outstruck by Sterling, and he's getting rocked here and there and taken down by Ian Cutelaba. And speaking of Ian Cutelaba taking him down multiple times, Sterling did as well. And you could argue that Jimmy Crute is a better grappler, okay? I'm not saying a more well-rounded fighter or whatever, or a better fighter, but there's a really good argument that Jimmy Crute is a better pure grappler and is better with the submission entries and better at finishing guys in the ground or taking them down, whatever it may be, more so than guys who are primarily strikers like Cutelaba and Sterling. So for Erslan to be taken down by those guys multiple times, I feel like it's a sign of bad things to come here. I'm going to be going with Jimmy Crute via a round 2 or 3 submission or maybe a 29-28 decision. Crute's kind of a dog. Honestly, he's a bit one of these guys where you look at all the losses and you look at the mullet, he looks like Theo Von, okay? Nothing wrong with Theo Von. Shout out to Theo Von, by the way. I always see the pictures of Theo Von being like one of the first people at the events every time he goes. So shout out to Theo Von. But I think Theo Von is going to be taking this one via a round 2 or 3 submission. I think that he's just going to be the better grappler here. He's going to be hunting for it. His striking does worry me. His chin does worry me because, again, he is a dog. He can get in these wars, but he can get cracked. He can get finished. He can get pieced up. But I just don't think that Erslan has proven that he's on the UFC level that Crute is. Crute has developed enough experience now where he's fought the big bad Anthony Smiths and yada fucking yada to where I think that Crute is going to be able to get this one done. He's the favorite here. Not that that extremely matters, but I'm going to be going with him via a late submission, okay? Or a 29-28. Moving on up next to me, Jack Jenkins. I'm going to be taking on Ramon Tavares here. Jack Jenkins is a surprisingly pretty big favorite here. I don't know if he should be that big of a favorite, but Ramon Tavares, he's powerful. He's a solid striker. Jack Jenkins, he can get finished. So Ramon Tavares, if he finds all the right shots here, maybe he can crack Jenkins, but I just think that Jack Jenkins is going to be the faster striker. He's more dynamic on the feet, throws a bit more volume. He's a bit more technical with it. I'm going to be trusting Jenkins here. I mean, both these guys are coming off of losses. They're going to want to bounce back in the win column here, but Jack Jenkins, I feel like he's going to feed off of one of these hometown crowd buzzes in the air, whatever the hell it is. The Australians are not always super successful. It's not like going to Noche UFC and they go 5-0, 6-0, and it's not like going to Paris and they're all winning for the most part. The Australians, it seems like at least for 312 and some of the recent cards, they have come up short a bit, a surprising amount of the time, but I think that Jack Jenkins is suffering a little bit of a height and reach disadvantage here, but again, I feel like he's going to be quicker on the feet, more dynamic, and I just like the better experience I've seen out of him. He's been in the UFC for a bit longer. I think there is a bit of concerns in the grappling department if he's going against somebody who's a high level enough grappler or somebody who's going to be hungry enough for that submission or takedowns, but also Jack Jenkins, he can throw a takedown here and there in a couple of his fights, not too much recently, been focusing a lot more on the feet, but regardless, I feel like he can crack and find the chin of Tavares here. Tavares has been beaten. He is 10-3, and Jack Jenkins is 13-4, so again, not the craziest records, but good enough to where Jack Jenkins, I feel like is going to get this one done via a decision win here, maybe some kind of finish. Moving on up next to what I really hope is not the co-main event. I know that this fight night is a week and a half away, okay? I am uploading these picks a bit early here, but I swear to the good Gandhi, if Junior motherfucking Tafa, is really taking on Aslan in the co-main event of a fight night 2025, I mean, the Aussies, I'm sorry, bro, they're treating y'all like they knew Canada with these cards, but Junior Tafa, man, versus Aslan, I'm going to be going with Aslan. Like I was kind of rambling about with the Tafa brothers earlier when I was talking about Justin, I just think that, yes, they're in the UFC, yes, they've gotten their fair share of wins, but really, for every 3 fights, they get a sick knockout in their hometown crowd, and then they just lose the other 2 by a slow, drawn-out decision, or they just get knocked out brutally, okay? Junior Tafa is 6-4. He's a pretty slight underdog. I feel like Aslan is one of my more confident picks. Again, I could be shocked here. Maybe there's something I'm missing in the air. Junior Tafa, I gotta specify which one, like it's a goddamn bathroom. Junior Tafa isn't that big of an underdog. He's in the hometown crowd in the co-main event spot, and I get that the Tafa brothers aren't always winning just because they're in Australia every time. You know what I mean? But I just think that Aslan, I know he's coming off a pretty competitive fight against, Billy Elicana, but he did ultimately get pieced up. But it wasn't like he got just beat up. It wasn't like he got marauded. It wasn't like he got finished, okay? It was solidly competitive for what it was. And Aslan, I just think the problem is that he's representing the whole country of Turkey on his back. There's a huge amount of hype on him and attention on him because he's representing the country like this. And when he came into the UFC, especially with his debut, he got a lot of attention. He was buzzing. He got a crazy knockout in like the feature prelim of a massive pay-per-view, so the bar was set high, and then he just went 0-2 after that, I believe. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it was just domination. He was just getting dominated, but regardless, I think that Junior Tafa of all fighters could be a winnable fight for him, okay? I think he's going to be more well-rounded. I think he's going to be more... I'm not even saying that Aslan really is the type to mix it up on the ground. He's primarily a striker, especially a hard-hitting one at that. But regardless, it's Junior Tafa. And I get that it's Junior Tafa now that he's like at light heavyweight and he's like a lot not a lot thinner, but he's a little bit thinner, okay? Had a little bit of the Weight Watchers. He was doing a little bit of Wii Fit, okay? Regardless, I just don't think that makes him a better fighter because of it, okay? Yes, he's probably taking it more seriously. Yes, he's cutting off the weight. Yes, he's transitioning to light heavyweight. I think that's good for him. That's what people have been saying, but... dude, that doesn't magically make his striking better. It doesn't magically make his power specifically translate devastating at light heavyweight down a weight class. I think that Aslan is just going to be more athletic. He's going to be grittier to get the hell after it. He's going to put on a heavier pace. And I feel like his chin hasn't got cracked really like the Tafa brothers really have. You know what I mean? Like, yes, Aslan is now racking up a couple of losses, 14-3 now. But regardless, 6-4 Junior Tafa, relying on that knockout here. He could get it. I don't know what I'm missing in the air. I feel like he should be a plus 300. I'm going to eat my goddamn words if he ends up getting a win here. Oh my God, bro. If the Tafa brothers go 2-0, or God forbid I pick the wrong ones, I'm going to be pressed. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm going with Aslan via a round 2 knockout or a 30-27 decision here, okay? I think he's going to find the chin of Junior Tafa. He's going to be faster, more athletic, and more powerful, in my opinion, and more accustomed to the weight class, all right? And moving on now to the main event. Y'all, if you haven't been paying attention, look, right over there. It's a fight we actually care about. This is what we've been waiting for. This is a fight worthy to be very invested in. It's Carlos Ulberg, supposedly the hometown crowd advantage. I don't know if that's going to apply here. Reyes is very beloved everywhere, but he's taking on Dominic Reyes here, okay? Carlos Ulberg is a pretty big favorite. In my mind, this is a damn near pick'em fight. I was struggling so hard to pick this fight. Oh my God, dude, oh my God. I don't know who to pick, chat. I do know who to pick. You want to know why I just did that? Because I know who I'm going with. I'm going with Carlos Ulberg, chat. Look at me. I'm on my knees. You can't really tell I'm on my knees. I'm on my knees. I'm going to fix this. Jesus. Hold on, chat. It just hurts me, man, because I really want to see Dominic Reyes get this one done. I know he can get this one done. This fight is way closer than I feel like a lot of people think, but I'm going with Carlos Ulberg, man. I have been consistently so like win one, lose one. I'm like the Neil Magny of picking main events. I'm win one, lose one, and then all of a sudden I'm losing 2 in a row and I'm out of skid and I'm a plus 300 underdog and I'm getting chinned in the apex. Where am I? What? I'm just saying that Dominic Reyes, man, I want to go with him so bad, but it's one of those picks I feel like I'm going with my heart. You know, and look at the fan poll. A lot of people are going with Dominic Reyes, and a lot of them are saying that Reyes is going to go out there and knock him out, or he's just going to have more experience. This is the guy that beat John Jones, or I'm sorry, not more experience, but better experience, what it may be, and that he's not just back, he's better. That's the thing a lot of people are saying, okay? But I want to believe it so bad. I want to believe it like it's some Bo Dallas, but I just genuinely, the win over Krylov, it's great, but it's been done now multiple times. The win over Anthony Smith, what more can I say about it? That's the thing. And then the win over Dustin Jacoby, again, that's been done. Jacoby was a good bounce back win, but Carlos Ulberg, he's training with Volk and Izzy and fucking Cora France. Okay, whatever the hell. He's training with Izzy and City Kickboxer. You get my point. I kind of shot myself in the foot there. And yes, I haven't been a fan of him lately. I feel like it's been a bit of a boring, kind of drawn out style, a bit too on that patient, technical, Izzy kind of kickboxing-like style, but it has been working and applying very well to the top level of light heavyweight. I understand he fought the unk of all unks at the cookout, Jan Blachowicz, but it's still Jan Blachowicz, but I don't take that win too crazy because it was Jan after like a year or two off and he was looking slower than ever and just not like the Jan of old. So I don't take that win too crazy, but Dominic Reyes, I don't know if he would exactly flatline Jan Blachowicz. I'm pretty sure Jan Blachowicz knocked out him a few years ago. So it'd be a bounce back win for Reyes, but I don't know. Reyes is kind of knocking out, you could argue, the jabroni jobber can level of the rankings at least. They're very good fighters in general, but comparatively to like going to these decisions and getting in these kind of drawn out battles on the feet against Volkan Ozdemir and Jan Blachowicz, yes, it's boring for the fans, but it is just him continuing the win streak here. He's knocking out Alonzo Menafield before then. He was on a crazy finish streak, mostly on the feet, getting knocked out after knockout. But people forget, man, got a submission here and there. He's not the most well-rounded fighter in the world, but his striking is very patient, technical, and crisp. I don't think he hits the hardest exactly at that top level, like the same way an Ian Gary was getting a bit of knockouts here and there. Oh my God, I'm comparing Gary's power to Ulberg. My point with it is that Gary could get finishes, but once he got to the rankings, all of a sudden the rate of the finishing ability just went down dramatically, okay? And now it's just a pretty much damn near guaranteed decision every time Gary's fighting because now he is at that ranked level. Not that he can't get finishes, but it seems like that's going to be what Ulberg is. And again, I keep mentioning Adesanya like he's literally his anime father figure, but they do train together consistently, and it seems like the style is just applying the same here, okay? And I just think that Dominic Reyes is going to be the more powerful striker. I think his power applies at the top level. At least he's getting ranked knockouts. At least he was the guy that shared 25 minutes with John Jones and beat him, okay? One of the worst robberies of all time. And I feel like, again, he can crack. He can find the chin of Ulberg. Ulberg's only loss was a knockout loss. I believe it was to Kennedy Nzechukwu. Don't quote me on that. Let me check. It was. Okay, Kennedy Nzechukwu. But in general, 13-1 record. It's that raw prospect on the rise experience, 34 years old. Pretty much the damn near same as Dominic Reyes. They also share the same height, pretty much the exact same reach. So these guys share a lot of the same qualities. The difference maker is, can Carlos Ulberg find and crack the chin of Dominic Reyes? And then we're all sitting there thinking he's going to win and thinking he's back, or he's not just back, but he's better. And then we're just watching him get flatlined in like round 4. I feel like Reyes is for sure going to have moments in this fight, man, but I just sense Ulberg, if it's a boring decision, I could see that. I could see like a 49-46 or a 48-47 boring pitter-patter decision, and Dominic Reyes just can't close the distance. He's getting frustrated in there. He can't find the right shots. He can't get the knockout, and Ulberg just pieces him up, okay? Or, God forbid, chat, I don't know if this is crazy of me to say, and this is a nightmare if it comes true, but I could see Ulberg getting a knockout here and kind of like that between that second and fourth round, you know what I mean? Again, I know he's not able to knock out Ozdemir and Blachowicz, but Reyes has been finished before multiple times. I can't just ignore the losing skid. I love the fact that he's back. I love the fact that he's on a winning streak. If he beats Ulberg, it'd be crazy to see. I'm not saying that he would exactly jump the line over the winner of Prochazka versus Roundtree, but he really could get a title shot, or at the very least be one away. So it's great. Maybe a Pereira fight, something like that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, man, I want to see that so bad. That's the timeline I want to live in. But unfortunately, I just think Carlos Ulberg, there's a reason why he is consistently getting these wins. I think that he is a good striker. Again, we're not dealing with two of the most well-rounded fighters in the world here. I think that Dominic Reyes has great takedown defense and shit like that, and Carlos Ulberg can mix it up occasionally, but I think this is going to be a striking battle is my point. And again, Dominic Reyes could find the chin once again at Carlos Ulberg and finish him. I believe he has the power and the high-level UFC experience to do that. In general, fighters are able to bounce back. Charles Oliveira does exist. Volkanovski and Usman, these guys, these unks were able to get wins once again. I'm not saying Reyes is exactly an unk. He's the same age as Ulberg, but hopefully I'm wrong here. I really hope I am, but I'm going to be going with Carlos Ulberg to get this one done via a bit of a drawn-out decision or maybe a late knockout. God help me. I hope I'm wrong, okay? And moving on now, boys, to the blanks of the card. We got the underdog of the card, the locks of the card, the wild card of the card, and the card rating. All of them are self-explanatory, but I'll get to it as I get to it. Starting off with the underdog of the card. Which of my underdog picks am I the most confident in? I went with a few on this card. I'm scrolling through. I went with Jamie Mullarkey. He's a very, very slight underdog. I went with Thicknesse. He's a bit of an underdog. I went with Jonathan Micallef. Again, very slight slight underdog. We're not dealing with crazy numbers here. I went with Charlie Campbell as an underdog as well. And I believe that was it. And I understand, again, not the biggest underdog in the world here. It's very close. He could end up switching to a favorite. But I'm going to be going with Jonathan Micallef to beat Oban Elliott as my underdog of the card, to be honest with you, man. It's risky, but honestly, they all are. And honestly, if I'm going to pick which one I'm the most confident in, I really can't see Micallef just getting this one done. I'm trusting in the skill set here, okay? I mean, no shit. What else am I going to trust in, okay? Is dancing? What? Jesus. Moving on to my locks of the card. Which of my picks am I the most confident in that I believe are not going to lose and are going to be able to get this one done? I'm going to throw Jack Jenkins. He's like a minus 300-ish favorite as one of these here. I'm going to put Jake Matthews as well to beat Neil Magny. So that's 2. And that's it, dude. I mean, if I'm just calling somebody a lock, I'm going to keep it as those two, okay? Ever since like July hit, my picks and my locks, they've been going down a little bit. And I'm not happy about it, okay? So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Jake Matthews and Jack Jenkins are going to be my only 2 locks of the card here. Who's going to be the wild card of the card? Somebody that's being pretty overlooked and overshadowed, but if they're somehow able to get a win here, despite being a big dog and overlooked, they're really able to shake things up. Have fans turning towards their way, and they're going to be able to shake up rankings, maybe get a big fight next. You know what, dude? I'm going to put both the Tafa brothers. Do you have any comment sections I've seen? And it's just like, oh, you can't go wrong with just running away from Tafa brothers in terms of picks, man. You cannot ever bet. You cannot ever pick the Tafa brothers. I've been seeing that so much. And even when you look at the fan polls, obviously that shows as well. Not a lot of people are going with the Tafa brothers. And again, I was going life and death in my mind trying to justify reasons to pick Justin Tafa earlier. So I'm going to be putting the Tafa brothers as the 2 wild cards of the card. I don't know which one's going to get it done or if any of them are, but if they're able to win, they're definitely shocking people for sure, okay? And moving on now to the card rating. What am I going to rate this card from 1 to 10 here? And as usual, I rate the fight nights kind of a lot easier than I rank the pay-per-views. Clearly, a 5 out of 10 pay-per-view is going to be a better card than a 5 out of 10 fight night. I'm going to rank this like a 4 out of 10, man. I don't think this is too good. It's definitely far from like the worst cards we've seen this year. It's better than an Apex card. At least there's a little bit of depth on the prelims, but you can't even really say that, man. The prelims, like, they're kind of if you know kind of fighters here. And again, Australia, I'm pretty sure there's an Australian on almost every single fight here. It's kind of just the theme of the card, like it's a WWE pay-per-view, like, I don't know, Jimmy Crute on the main card and Neil Magny, Tom Nolan, like Jack Jenkins. There's nothing wrong with these guys, but Junior Tafa possibly in the co-main. I feel like in my mind, these aren't bad matchups. I think we'll see a lot of finishes on this card. It will be entertaining to watch, I think. I think a lot of the Aussies are going to get it done. It'll be a good crowd as usual. They're one of the most amazing crowds that the UFC goes to. And I think the main event is just carrying so hard. Like if this was I don't even want to know what weight class specifically, but let's just say it was like Tybura versus Spivak as like the main event. This will be like a 2 out of 10. You know what I mean? Maybe not even that bad. Maybe like a 3. Regardless, you get my point. The main event is carrying, man. And I'm very excited for the main event. My heart is genuinely invested in it. I think it'll be a good scrap. Hopefully a finish. Maybe I don't even need a finish. Reyes, please. But regardless, I'm giving this one a respectful but also disappointed 4 out of 10, bro. And that's going to be it for this video, man. A bit on the longer side of things for the predictions, but we had a lot of fights here, man. So thank y'all so very much for giving me your time and attention and sticking with me, man. Again, dude, it means the world to me. I endlessly appreciate it, man. So thank you so very much. Leave your opinions in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear it. We're just here to shoot the shit and talk MMA. Let me know what you think in the comments below about my picks. Let me know overall what you think of the card. Let me know your predictions. I would absolutely love to hear it, okay? So all the smoke here. I appreciate y'all. Hope you have a good time watching the card, my boys. I got a half marathon that day. I'm literally gonna pass away, but I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching.